Let's talk right into the open here. There it is. We're talking. We just can't wait to get going here. The July edition with Jim Scarcelli. First time. The former Wolverine is on the day before Independence Day. It's great to see him. Scar, tell everybody hello.
It's a great day, Danny. I got the American flag out there flying.
Ooh, nice.
4th of July, we're rolling, Danny. But this afternoon, little somber note. I got to go to a funeral. I played on a state championship football team. I was a sophomore, 1978. And we had a great defense. We did not give up a point until the 8th game of the year. 7 straight shutouts.
Wow.
But our big nose guard, big one technique, he passed away. So I'm going to see a lot of guys that I played with, and I got to go to that funeral. But yeah, Danny, you got to have good one technique and 3 technique to protect them linebackers. That's what Mozzie Smith, Kenny Grant, you got to understand. A big part of their job is to take on double teams and protect linebackers so linebackers can flow, so they're free to flow. And this guy here was an all-state, Bruce Rennie. Just loved him. He was a respected guy. The 8th game of the year, Denny, we're up 28-0. We kicked the ball off. Our coach cleared the bench, put some guys on the kickoff team. They score on a kick return for a touchdown. But, Denny, I'm just thinking about my buddy. This is one of the great things about football. I coached it for 25 years. Is that football, you've got 22 different positions. If you count the kicker, the holders, the punters, you got 24, 20. There's a position for every type of athlete. I coach basketball, and you got to be, you got to be kind of athletic to play those sports, But football, you can be the big kid, you can play offensive line, you can be the little guy, you make a defensive back out of them. You might be, but there's a position for all types of athletes. That's what I loved about football as a guy who worked in the schools. I was like, hey, there's this. You just got to find out where you put these guys, where you plug them in. But you don't have to be the greatest athlete to play football. You can find a spot for a guy that shows up every day. And but Danny, we real quick on this because it just got me thinking about my team. We didn't give up any points. We played one defense. Last week we were talking about adjustments, how teams try to screw you up with formations and shifting. We played one defense. We never stunted. We never blitzed. We played man-to-man every down. All we did was adjust. Okay, you line up unbalanced or this, that, or whatever. We're going to line up and we're just going to play. We didn't do any stunning. Our coach didn't believe in it. Everybody was lined up and comfortable, and we played man every down. So, it can be done without doing a bunch of stuff. I've always said the most important thing in defense is getting lined up and adjusted properly. That's what I learned from Coach Moeller.
Condolences to the Rennie family and
Bruce Rennie, legend over here in Warren.
To all of his teammates and obviously his family. Scar, did you have double-digit sacks that year when you guys were shutting them out? I mean,
I was just a sophomore.
Okay.
My brother was the all-stater. We were both defensive ends. I was just surviving as a young sophomore, but we had great defense, man. People did not run the ball on the Warriors.
Well, not when you're shutting everybody out through 8 games, really 9 games, when the backup gets in there. Scar, last week he brought some stats to the table, and it was well received. He's got more stats to take a look at and chew on here on this Wednesday. We've got a question of the day. It surrounds Michigan football and how they will do this upcoming season. We'll start with a little recruiting, though, Scar. And, Michigan, they've got a baker's dozen right now, and Rivals has them ranked currently at 21. Remember, they got a slow start with the transition from Harbaugh to Sharon Moore. but they've got 13 right now. And if you just look at the past 5 years, their ranking, if you add those up and divide it by 5, you come up with 10.6. So they have averaged a right around 10, 11 for the last 5 years. And I think that they can get there again. The one part that you might be, I could say, disappointed in is that we talked about this on Monday, coming off a national championship. You might think that would be a boost that would put Michigan, inside the top 10 and maybe even inside the top 5. Not quite there yet. If you look at the quality of the players out of those 13, 11 of those guys are 4 stars, and one of those guys, Winston, the safety, if you look elsewhere at the people that rank him, the Rivals is way low on him. So Michigan's got a real quality 13 right now and where they're at. You got any thoughts here on the last few years and the start that Michigan is at right now, beginning the start of July now?
Yeah, the old school way of thinking was, you win a Big Ten championship, you win a national championship, you're just, you're going to really crush recruiting. And I think the NIL is, throwing a wrench in some of that kind of thinking. Where, guys still want to play for winners. They still want a great education, still want to feel comfortable with the coaches and the team. But the NIL stuff is going to throw some of that out of whack. But yeah, looks like we're slowly getting, that's where we've been. We've been, Jim had us 10, 11, 10, 9. Those are good football players. And again, I talked about, how much is intelligence, and the ability for Coach Harbaugh to see and evaluate the parents to determine what kind of work ethic are you going to get. You wonder if Jim had that kind of vision. I know how Big Bo was on that. What are you getting with the parents, and then what are you going to get with the kid? Is that stuff, how well do the recruiting ranking guys, blend that into their rankings? The parenting, the work ethic, the intelligence. And I just wonder if Jim was beaten in some of the statistics. You know what I'm saying, Denny? Because there's so many things that we do as a football team takes intelligence, but I've been beating that up for a while now lately.
Well, I think I know exactly what you're talking about. What would be a real fun exercise is if we had a Jim Harbaugh here on this broadcast and we went through those classes. You could look at a composite of all of the rankings from all of the sites, and with more evaluations might give you a better idea of just looking at Rivals. But then if you had Harbaugh sitting here and say, hey, Jim, because every class, when he's standing up there, he's like, oh, we love this guy, we love this guy, we love this guy. And, sometimes he's right, sometimes he's wrong. But as he was going through it, it would be interesting to see, where his top guys were, what he thought of the overall rankings. And I would just think of 3 years ago, and when he called the what do you call Kenneth Grant, Mason Graham, the gifts from the football gods. Yeah. So he loved those guys right off the bat. And man, they and in Graham's case, playing, when they had, you mentioned Mozzie Smith and Chris Jenkins. I mean,
Denny, but both of those guys were not 5-star kids. I think they were both 3-star kids, right?
I don't know. I think maybe 4-star, but what?
Mason Graham had we had to beat Boise State for Mason Graham. He didn't come on till late. Michigan offered him, and then he was like a Boise State commit, and then Michigan offered. Then a bunch of other guys jumped on late.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. I don't know.
Exactly. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, my point is that it would be interesting to hear what the coach had to say after the fact, looking at the rankings and saying, oh, man, we really we thought that we had one of the best classes, and, these guys had us ranked outside the top 10. Maybe he would say that. And the proof's always what happens when they get out on the field. And for a lot of those, you could go through and say the one class, and it didn't show up in the last 5, but the one that beat Ohio State finally in 2021, those seniors, you look like guys like, Haskins. I don't even know if he was a 3-star, but you go through, there were a lot of players that you look through that Michigan went out there and identified and those guys ended up winning a Big Ten championship, and people were boo-hooing that class left and right.
Yeah, it's hard to determine and evaluate work ethic, toughness. Denny, I shared that story. A guy came to me, a college coach was recruiting, and he asked me about a kid, when there's a foot of snow on the ground and the kid's got to go to an 8 a.m. class on the other side of campus, is he going to go? That's a question that one of the college coaches asked me about one of my players, which was a great question. I remember being that guy, that had to walk all the way to the other side of campus when you got a foot and a half of snow at 8 o'clock in the morning. And those are things you got to try to size that up when you're recruiting a kid. You talk to mom and dad, you see, what kind of family is this kid coming from? I think maybe Jim just had a good eye for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, this point by Scott is one that is always a good debate, especially in the summer. Scott writes in that academic restrictions will always impact Michigan. Wish this was explored more in depth across the sport.
Hey, Denny, Scott, Michigan, we got to play that both sides of that academic deal. You're going to get your how do you say the big tackle, Babaloa?
Yeah, Babaloa.
Well, okay, you got Babaloa. He's got Stanford and Michigan. Okay, he ain't looking at Michigan State. He's not looking at LSU. Okay, he wants to go. Academics are so now we're in the mix on that kid because he wants academics. And then there's other guys that we want, and they may not have the grades. So we're going to be at a disadvantage for those kids. Okay, we might not be able to get them in school where Michigan State can. So it's a two-edged sword in terms of recruiting. Michigan will always face that. Is we got to use it to our advantage when we got that kind of kid, and it's going to hurt us at times. For some kids, you just can't get them in. You coach at Michigan, you got to understand that.
Yeah, I thought that it hurt Michigan the most, talking about academic restrictions, when it came to transfers and when it came to foreign players, as they're more rigid when it comes to the different tests and transfer credits. Hell, yeah. It was Hinton who went to Stanford was saying like, hey, there were a lot of credits that weren't transferring out from Stanford, and Stanford. I thought, I believe, and I don't know this for sure. This is just my opinion, Scary. I'm sure you'll say something different. I think there's Northwestern, there's Stanford. I think there's Notre Dame, maybe Duke, maybe there's a few others. But other than that, Michigan can get in just about like everybody else. They're on par recruiting a kid. They're able to get, that kid in. So I don't know how, those academic, I think in transfers, it might, but it can change. It's a fun thing. Like what you're just talking about with Babaloa, he might be looking at the reputation of these schools, not necessarily getting in, but like what you're talking about, he's really interested in the academic side. That's going to help Michigan out, but I don't know how much that holds them down, impacting about, your average player that's out there. But hey,
well, it hurts us, Denny, where there's kids we just can't flat out recruit. I guarantee you we can't recruit every single kid Michigan State's recruiting.
Yeah, I don't know that.
Yeah, I believe that. I know a guy that coached at Michigan and Michigan State. Okay, I'm not going to tell you his name. You could probably do some research and figure it out. But I have a friend of mine that coached at both, and he told me there was a difference getting guys in.
Yeah, look, Michigan.
The transfer thing is big, Danny, and the transfer thing wasn't big 10 years ago. But now it's a bigger factor. It's a huge factor.
And yet they've been able to get 19 players over the last 2 years. So it
pisses me off that they got to give up a bunch of credits. They're going to be behind academically if they pick Michigan, and that's not right. I wish we could do something about that so that, if we're recruiting a kid, a good transfer, and Ohio State's recruiting a good transfer, that, it doesn't come down to the kid wasting, a year of college as somewhere else.
I don't know. So, I'm going to just say that mine's just from talking to people and just, but I'm not, if somebody wanted to really put the screws to me and say, this is exactly how it goes, you have no idea. I would defer to those people in what we're, you're saying and everything there. So I get it in what you're talking about. looking at, you mentioned Babaloa. I have him on my list of some guys to keep an eye on recruiting targets. There's two players that Michigan is in on, and they're getting ready to make a decision here in the upcoming days. One is a tight end from, I believe he's from Pennsylvania, Andrew Olish. He is down to Michigan and Bama. You want to make a case for Florida or Penn State? Go ahead. I think it's Michigan and Bama. He's making a decision on July 8th. So Michigan's got a really good chance. If you think, a 55% chance is a really good chance against Alabama. Philip Wright's a wide receiver out of Louisiana. Michigan already as a wide receiver from the Bayou. And Wright is down to 3, Michigan, Georgia, and LSU. That's going to be a tough one. But July 13th, Michigan's right there. And, they're, thinking that they have a good chance to get Wright the third. Babaloa, you've already mentioned. Michigan, Stanford. There could be some others, Oklahoma in there. I just put Michigan and Stanford. I don't have a timeline or a feel on when he's going to make his commitment. Same thing with Archie, who is a linebacker that's interested in Michigan, Rutgers, and Clemson. Any thoughts on this group and what might happen here?
I think Babaloa is coming. I think he's coming. I just, I saw him at practice, Denny. I just saw that gleam in his eye, man. I saw the gleam in his eye when he was looking around Schembechler Hall. So big fella's coming to Ann Arbor. In the tight end, listen, Bama did a great job with tight ends under Saban. The Washington offense is a little different. I wonder how well they will recruit the tight ends. Michigan is the place you want to go. You want to go to Michigan or Iowa. Okay, you go to Iowa or Michigan, you're going to get developed as a tight end. You go to Iowa, you finish 6-6. You go to Michigan, you come home with hardware, rings, and you're still a highly touted tight end. So we're getting that reputation. We got a lot of guys in the NFL, and we're in the mix on some good receivers too, Denny. So.
Scar, you say that. I remember when Michigan made their first Big Ten championship game. It was against Iowa, and Laporta was in that game. He made a few catches, and it's like, hey, he looks pretty good. He's got the line of these excellent, from Hawkinson. We could name a bunch of them, of these excellent Iowa tight ends. But it's not like when you watched him play against Michigan, you're like, man, this guy's like Gronk or something. I mean, he's so amazing. But obviously, he is amazing.
Listen, Iowa, they do not play imposters at tight end. Okay, you ain't playing for Iowa if you can't block as a tight end. The problem with Iowa is they don't do enough stuff to give you problems offensively. Michigan offensively, shifting, formations, scheme. We do a lot of things that give defenses problems. So yeah, but we both do a great job developing tight ends. We both ask them to block at the line of scrimmage, and you don't see a ton of people doing that. That's why pros like our tight ends, like their tight ends.
Yeah, and if I'm Olish, you look, and Michigan's got a top 15 offense, and the way they do things, and Iowa's got a bottom 15 offense nationally. So I would think that that might be an easy decision. But look, I'm talking on the Maize and Blue Review. So there you go. That's it. Now, Scar, last week you talked some, you had some stats that you put up there, and we've got other stats that we want to take a look at. Tell everyone what we are actually going to look at here. Let's see if I can really put it up on the screen. And yeah, there it is. There it is. College football teams plays per game is what we're talking about, right?
That's it. So obviously, if you can start at, you've got just scroll down there, Denny. So we're looking at the column 2023. South Florida is running 82 plays offensively per game. They're the number one team. They run a lot of plays. And then as you scroll down, stop it at UCLA there, Denny, because number 8. What's interesting about UCLA is that's Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly is now with the enemy over in Columbus. So that's interesting. And as we scroll, we'll see where Ryan Day was. Ryan Day in Ohio State was actually they're a lot lower down near the bottom. But go ahead on down, scroll down. You'll see Purdue is 73 plays offensively per game. Penn State 71. Go ahead. They're at number 4. They're at number 40. Keep going down.
Yeah, it's taking me a second to scroll.
Switch over.
See if I can do it quicker this way.
But I just wanted to let people get an idea where.
Give me a second, Scar. I'll get you.
I'll talk about it as you're working on it. But Denny, the concept of the run a bunch of plays real fast. Okay, here's Michigan now. You skipped a few, but that's fine. We are at 124. We run 62, about 63 plays a game. So we're at 124 out of, I think, 133, right, Denny? Look at the very bottom. Can you scroll down to the very bottom?
Probably.
Anyway, just about where you figured Iowa would be. They're at 128. Wyoming, the old Nebraska guy, he's at 129. But there's the very bottom. Okay, so Kentucky, you got to look at it's interesting. Kentucky, Stoops, an old Iowa player, played for Hayden Fry. He's runs 56 plays a game. Okay, but you look at the history of some of these guys in Wyoming, a Nebraska guy. Rutgers was pretty low. That's interesting. Now, Denny, this is my philosophy. And Michigan actually doesn't work into this. Just leave it right there then for a minute.
All right.
Okay, when I was coaching and I had inferior players, when I didn't have many players, my first couple years, we didn't have many guys, 23, 25 guys on the varsity football team. We're playing teams that got 50, 60 kids. What we wanted to do was we want to slow the game down. So every snap, I'd have my offensive coordinator would have his stopwatch, so we maximized every possession. We took as much time off the clock every possession. You follow me? We got inferior players. We got less players. Okay. If you got better players, you want to run a lot of plays. You got it? So that was the thinking for me as a coach. And then when people started running a lot of plays, I was thinking that would be advantageous to Michigan too. Okay. But there's a lot of things about going fast. There's some things that are positive. There are some things that are negative, but there's no correlation with winning. There's no correlation with winning. We're at the very bottom. We won the national championship. Okay, so we don't run a lot of plays. Okay, some of the advantages, you can dictate pace. If you don't change, you dictate pace, you dictate tempo. You can find a mismatch. The defense can't change players out. So if you got something, if the defensive coach has a corner you like or a defensive tackle you want to hammer, you can find it and you can keep running at that guy because they can't make changes if you. So that's one of the advantages. It forces the defense to be simplified. In some cases, it does. I could still. And I've defended against this stuff. The coach might be out there at the line, the quarterback's looking at the line, at the offensive coaches, and they're screwing around, getting, but I got time too as a defensive coach. So I can get lined up. I can still stunt and do things, but it does wear your defense out. Okay. If they're able to have success. Okay, it does wear your defense out. If they're able to get they get that first down and they're running a play every 20 seconds. It helps you in practice. You can run a lot of plays, because it's what you do. It helps you at the end of the half or at the end of the game. And when people say, let's go 2 minute or hurry, it's nothing big for you because it's what you do as an offense. You follow me, Denny? It's what you do all the time. So it's not like you're practicing, hurry, and that kind of stuff. But what it hurts you is it hurts your defense. Because if you go 3 and out and you only had the ball for 2 minutes, and now your defense is back on the field, there's no time of possession. As a former defensive football player, there's nothing you want more than your offense, to put those 12, 15 play drives together, especially playing for Michigan, huddling. Jim was huddling. against Alabama. I mean, that is a beautiful thing if you're a defensive player. Another advantage of huddling and slowing it down is they're not looking at your signals. People are looking at signals, man. I'm telling you, they've been doing that forever. They were filming me 20 years ago as a high school coach. That stuff ain't new, Denny. I know certain teams we played, they would film the defensive coordinator. So that ain't new.
Stallions was in diapers and they were filming Scar.
That's right. So anyway, the correlation between winning and going fast and huddling, you have a lot less chance for miscommunication, right? You know, when you're spread out, everybody's doing the hand signals and looking at the card and looking at whatever. You have a lot less. Anyway, look where Ohio State is, Denny. They're only a few. They're near the bottom. I would have thought they would have been a little faster. I think Ryan Day slowed down a little bit. So they're at 66 plays a game. Michigan was what, 63?
Yeah,
something like that. So it'll be interesting to see if Ryan Day and Chip Kelly together, if that changes anything. But Denny, as far as my thoughts on it and going fast, if you ask me as a defensive coach, what would I rather defend? I mean, I don't want to defend a team like Michigan that comes out and shifts and motions and puts me in all kinds of conflict from that standpoint. You wear my defense out. You run a lot of plays. So there's strengths and weaknesses to both. And I like, as a defensive player, I like what we do offensively, slowing it down, keeping our defense fresh, and some of those things. I see Texas, Danny, real quick, some of the people we play. So I talked about UCLA being 77. Texas runs 74 plays a game. We're at 63. So Sarkisian likes to go fast. Okay. Wisconsin, what a change they have with the new coach. They're at 73, 10 more plays a game than Michigan. Oregon, they're not as fast as they were back in the day with Chip Kelly. This new coach is only going 68 plays a game. So, it's again, is there a correlation between winning and going fast? You got to execute, Denny. You got to give the defense conflict. Now, there's problems that going fast does give a defense some problems, but in terms of substituting, but there's a lot of other ways to give defensive problems with the Michigan philosophy, with the shifting and the 7 offensive linemen. So there's a lot of ways to mess with the defense, and going fast is one of them. And but I personally, I'd rather have Jim's philosophy. I'd rather be a defensive player coach with the Michigan philosophy.
If we were here 3 years ago heading into the season and we were just talking about the way that the game has changed, and I think we would be talking about, you want more plays, you want more, you want to spread the field, you want to be able to, the game is about being able to push the ball down the field. It's about big plays. And defense, defense is fine, but let's not get caught up too much in the defensive statistics. The defense just needs to make a big play in the fourth quarter. I mean, that was the mindset 3 years ago. Harbaugh made a real shift there with running the ball and being physical, and so much so that we all talk about it now. It was a little surprising that Ohio State was that low. I thought that they would have been up high because that's Ohio State football, the modern football, great athletes, get the ball in the air and throw it down the field. So it is a little surprising.
What Ohio State does, though, Denny, is what they do, and a lot of these guys will do this. They'll run a play, and then they run to the line of scrimmage and get lined up. So they force the defense to get lined up. But now they're going to screw around, and they're going to look at the sideline for about 10 seconds. You follow me?
Oh, yeah.
So they're not running a play real quick, but they're looking at the defense. They're seeing how you're lined up. See, what I did as a defensive coach is, okay, you ran a play, and now you're lined up and you're looking at your coach. Well, my players are looking at me, and I'm going to line up the exact same way all the time, but I'm going to run a stunt. I'll be able to run a stunt and change my coverage while you're screwing around looking at your coach. You follow me?
Yeah.
Well, I could still do things defensively while the offensive coach is trying to figure out what the hell I'm doing. So, there's strengths and weaknesses to that. It'll be interesting to see what the Buckeyes do. Big Ten's all over the place. You got some guys that want to go fast and some guys that are at the bottom. But yeah, it was interesting. We were ranked 124 out of 133 teams, and we won the national championship. So, you ask Lane Kiffin or Josh Heupel to Tennessee and Ole Miss, those guys are all about speed. You play those guys, they want to wear that defense out. They want to run plays and work. But, the downside too, Danny, is those offensive linemen got to run to the line of scrimmage too. So anyway, I just thought that those stats would be interesting, something to look at and talk about. And
you were correct. They were interesting and they were fun to talk about. You know what else is interesting and fun to read and talk about? It's the Maize and Blue Review. And you can join up today by going to michigan.rivals.com. If you find recruiting fun, if you find visits and stories about the upcoming season interesting, well, this is the place to be. Join the Maize and Blue Review today by going to michigan.rivals.com. Take it from me. It'll be the best couple bucks you spent when you want to know the latest about the Maize and Blue.
Danny, I've been looking at more Don Brown film from when he was with the Ravens and when he was with the Giants.
you mean Wink?
What did I say?
Don Brown.
Oh, I said Don. Okay, I'm screwed up here.
That's all right.
When Wink was with the Ravens and Wink was with the Giants, I've been looking at film because I keep hearing people worried about this Wink blitz, like we're going to get back to Don. No, Wink Martindale's foundation, I guarantee you this. I firmly believe this. He walks into that defensive meeting room and he tells those players the number one thing we're going to do is stop the run. We're going to stop the run. I don't think that that's what they heard from Don Brown. So there's just a whole different philosophy. Wink Martindale wants a blitz and do a lot of different things, but he does it with always the mindset that they ain't running the ball on us. Okay, because I've been looking at some of the stuff he does, and it's the same stuff McDonald and Minter did, and I'm getting more and more confident and feeling real good about this. It's the system, like the OG said when he got the job. It's the system, and I'm feeling really, really confident that. So people need to just chill out about that Don Brown blitz, Wink blitz. We're going to forget how to play defense now. That ain't happening, man. I've said it before. I just want to say it again. Maybe next week I'll put some Wink. Excuse me. I'll put some Wink Raven film on or some Wink Giants film on, and we'll take a look at some stuff.
That sounds fun to me and interesting. So I like that. I've watched over the last 3 years. What I've seen is that Michigan will send a corner, they'll drop a defensive tackle, they'll send a one edge guy here, they'll send 3 guys from the left, and they'll drop the whole right side. And it depends what they're looking at. It's fascinating. But what they really look like they're good at being in position when the ball snapped with great communication. They got great checks, and this guy lining up, and then they're ready to go. Whatever they're going to do. That's what I've seen over the last 3 years. Of course, they've had some outstanding players and coaches. That all helps.
Yeah, Wink believes in conflict, not knowing who's coming, where it's coming from, but at the same time, the understanding that you ain't running the ball on us is right there. That's the foundation. That's where they start. So I think, okay, here's a statement from Courtney. I'm nervous about the volume of blitzing Wink might do because we can – the thing about Wink, and I've been looking at this guy, man, He'll line 7 guys up at the line of scrimmage, but he's only going to bring 4. You just don't know which 4 are coming. And that puts conflict on the protection. So he does the same stuff we've been seeing from Minter and McDonald. Obviously, the only downside of bringing 7 guys to the line of scrimmage is now the guys that are dropping Denny, they got to get out of there. They got to get into their drops, or they got to pick up a man, and they got to do it from the line of scrimmage. That's the downside of doing that, is showing that pressure, is now those 3 guys that are not coming. I was watching Wink. Somebody he was playing, he had a guy at the line of scrimmage, and on the snap of the ball, that guy had a middle third. I mean, he just flat turned and sprinted to a middle third deep zone. You follow me?
Yeah.
So, but it was executed. The defense was executed. So all those things are, and that, okay, Johnny is saying that also confuses QBs, and these are college QBs. Not, yeah, you're right. And that's what we're going to do, is we're going to confuse them. We're going to stuff their run game, and we're going to mess with their mind with chaos and conflict, just like we've been doing the last 3 years, man. So I just want to put that to rest, because I've been looking at a lot of Wink lately, and I'm liking what I'm seeing, man.
CNC, chaos and confusion. Let's go. Yeah, there you go. And let's throw that question of the day out here. Scar, it's a pretty broad question. You can go anywhere you want with it. Michigan, a floor for this upcoming season? Where do you think that would be, considering everything? And then ultimately a ceiling for this year's team.
Listen, man, when I look at this football team, our defense is every bit as good as it's been the last 3 years. Every bit as good. The first 11, we know that. Okay, we're going to find out, are the next where are we at with our top 25 players on defense? We got to see Eno Eto. Are these guys going to give us great backup play? Okay, so what's the floor, ceiling? Our defense is as good as it's been, and we 3 straight championships. So defensively, ton of confidence. Offensive line, I seriously believe our offensive line is going to be every bit as good as it's been. Those are really good players that have been waiting. They're ready to go. Crippen's ready to go. Those big tackles, our tight ends are going to be really solid. I don't think we're taking a step back at tight end. I don't think we're taking a step back at the offensive line. The receiver position, we're going to see how it goes. Are we going to be? Who's going to be our Roman Wilson? We can run jet sweep. We can run bubble screens, but receiver is a question mark for me. Running back position, I believe, will be every bit as good. I do. I think Donovan's going to have a great year. He's bigger, thicker, stronger, and the whole thing is going to be, what kind of quarterback play are we going to get? I was looking at the Ohio State game the other day, man. I still take a peek every now and then. I want to, I'm crazy like that, Danny. I still take a look at that game and just smile, and we had great play from JJ. But I, in my personal opinion, I think we're going to have a 2-headed quarterback. I think it's going to be Tuttle and Orji. That's my prediction, and I would love to think we can go get to Ohio State with 2 quarterbacks and a system where we play. Because when we ran Orji against the Buckeyes, man, did he look good running the ball. So I don't know if he's going to start, but I don't know. But I really would like to think we have 2 that can play. And we're really confident. So, Danny, my ceiling is this. I mean, we got Oregon at home. We got Texas at home. We play Washington like game 5 or 6. That'll be our first tough road game. But we'll have our quarterbacks will have a lot of experience under their belt. Ain't no reason we couldn't be 11-0 going to Columbus. Ain't no reason we couldn't be. We just got to get good quarterback play, man, that secures the football. Because with that defense and that run game we just can't make stupid mistakes. Throw the damn ball out of bounds and we'll punt. Don't give them to them. Don't give them the damn football. We'll punt it and we'll play defense.
Well, I think that this team is good enough to get to the college football playoff. I think that that's going 10-2. And they've got a tough schedule. The Texas, Oregon, and Ohio State games, those are all, however you are going to select the two losses, there they are. But if you're talking about playing two quarterbacks, I would say that this is not going to be a college football playoff team. I would think that this would be teetering on, I don't want to say disaster, but teetering on a season where you're going to be disappointed. If you just look in the history of college football, Scar, teams that play multiple quarterbacks don't do well. They have multiple losses. They're playing multiple quarterbacks because they don't have one guy to lead them. And a situation now, if you're talking about orgy was just some kind of orgy package and some special situations down on the goal line, that's a little bit different. But you're talking about playing two quarterbacks.
Danny, let me rephrase.
It's not going to be a good year.
I guess I'd like to think that we have two that are good enough to we can play and win with. Like Ohio State won a national championship with three that were good enough to win with.
Right.
You feel? I mean, maybe I'm phrasing. I want to think that we have two guys we can win and beat Texas with either one of them. That's what I'd like to think. That's what we're going to find out. We're going to see the Fresno game. We're going to play a couple guys. I would like to think because we're either one of those guys or whoever are the first two quarterbacks, they're one hit away from being in the game. Okay, if Alex Orji's the starter, Tuttle's one hit away from being in the game. If it's I don't know, but I just like to think we have two, Danny.
You like Tuttle from his experience and what you saw when he was at Indiana, and that he was going to be the backup last year because he didn't participate in spring. So he's back and he's throwing, and so you feel like maybe that he could have that experience where none of the other guys do, and that could be something that he could factor in the competition in fall ball. I mean, what are you saying here?
I think it's, we're going to see who's the coaches are going to look at fall camp. They got these kids, they're so long now before camp even starts. They're going to start here in another couple of weeks, Denny. They're going to be down there. We started camp mid-August, 3 weeks before the first game. These guys are like 6 weeks before the first game. They're going to throw and watch them. And they're going to, which guy is accurate. And, obviously Alex gives you the, gives you the run game, all the different stuff he can do from that. But we don't want to make a living on that. That's not durable. That's not long-term durable. Get you to gain 12, counting on him to run it, 8-10 times a game. That's not what we want. But
there's a lot of teams that do go there. I mean, if Jalen Milroe, he got benched one game, but he went out there and did it. There's been plenty of quarterbacks that have gone out there and have been. I don't want to call Alex Orji a run first quarterback, but certainly a quarterback that is going to do a lot of running. That sure. I mean, anybody can get hurt anytime. I don't know. Do running quarterbacks get hurt more than pocket quarterbacks, Scar?
I don't know the stat on that, Denny. All I know is that you put a guy in a position to have to take on a linebacker on a predetermined quarterback ISO or quarterback power. Those are plays we run. That was all part of the. You could have a Tuttle with or you could look. I'd like to think Denny. I just like I'm hoping we have two that can play. That's what I guess that's what I'm hoping for. I want to come out of that Fresno game because I have faith in the depth at all of our other positions. I know we got 4 running backs that can play. I just want to feel really confident that we have 2 quarterbacks that can play. That's it. I guess that's what I'm saying.
I like this point. Orji's from Texas. He'll be fired up to beat Texas. I want to say something about Orji. I made a bunch of predictions on Monday's show, and looking at the numbers after the fact, I have Orji with a 59% completion percentage. That was my prediction. I also predicted that he would start all 12 games. I know this is where you just talked about, it sounds like, him being a running quarterback, you might not think so. I think 18 attempts. If you're only have a 59% completion percentage and you're only throwing 18 times, so that means 9 or 10 times, 190 yards is likely out of reach, because you're talking about play per attempt then of being, close to, 18 or 19. That's not going to That's just, I don't see Orgy lighting up for these 80-yard downfield. I think a lot of his passes are going to be short, intermediate ones. So if I could go back and do this again, now I did work at it, but this number I think is too high. If I could go back,
Danny, you gotta remember this: when Orgy's in the football game, he stresses the defense in a lot of different ways. He helps the run game with his presence on the field. Okay, maybe they're not going to fear his ability to throw, maybe like a JJ, what we've seen this last year. Okay, great. But you have to honor all those run plays that he's involved with. Okay, and that a defensive coordinator and a defensive player that has to honor all those run plays with the quarterback, that makes you susceptible to all the run plays with the running back. It makes your jet sweep and all this other stuff tougher to defend because you've always got to account for, quarterback run. What are they doing? I in my era, the people ran the option. I think I've said this before. Ohio State always would run the option at least 4 plays a game, Denny. They ran the option. They didn't run a lot of it, about 4 plays a game. You know why they did it like 4 or 5 plays a game? Because they make you, as a defensive football player, every time you line up, you've got to ask yourself on every defense, okay, who do I got on? Who has the dive? Who has the quarterback? Who has the pitch? You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
So they mess with your thinking. They're always there. So this Orgy in the football game, it does the same kind of it gives the defense problems, just in a different way. And you got to run them. You have to run them, so that they have to deal with that.
Scar, who was the quarterbacks when you played Ohio State? Art Schlichter.
Art Schlichter beat us. We had that good team. Yeah, my freshman year. Then Carzados and Tomzak. Mike Tomzak.
Mike Tomzak. Yeah, later would play for the Bears. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you sack him a couple times?
Yeah, I think so. And Keith Byers was the running back. What a beast he was. Man. That guy had some thighs on him, man. But anyway,
Keith Byers.
When Orgy's in the game, he's a headache, man. He's a headache for the defense. And if he can show consistency as a passer, he's a serious headache. He's a Lamar Jackson headache. That's what you don't want to defend.
No, you don't. Yeah, I think Michigan can make the college football playoff. I think Orgy is going to be a little bit of a work in progress. If I could change one thing, and I am going to change, I might as well just change it right now. I have Michigan with 10 wins and 2 losses, and I had the 2 losses being Ohio State and Oregon. I'm going to adjust that right now. With the 2 losses, I do think at Ohio State game, hey, Michigan could get them in the Big Ten championship game, but I think with Oregon and Texas, I think because Michigan's breaking in a new quarterback and a new offensive line and really an entire offense, I think Michigan's going to play its better football as the season goes on. So I think that the Texas and Ohio State, those would be, as I get into July here and I'm making my predictions on a 10-2 Michigan team, those are going to be where I would predict the losses would be. It's not like I'm saying I hope that Michigan loses to Texas. I know that the point that Orgy, is from Texas, that'd be great, And if Michigan beats Texas, I think at that point, I feel like I'm ready for a showdown of undefeated teams in Columbus. I mean, that's how I'm going to feel. But so we're just talking now, Scar. I know I say a lot of things, and people will say, well, what do you flip-flop and everything else? Well, I'm getting into July. I'm making my second overall pride, 10-2, and those were going to be the losses. But I'll tell you that Texas game looms so large that if Michigan can win it, what it could mean for the quarterback position, what it could mean for the confidence, for Sharon Moore as the head coach, and then get them off and running for the rest of the slate there. It could be great season for the Maize and Blue if they're able to beat the Burnt Orange in that second week of the season.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad we got that tough game like there because I'm all about winning the Big Ten championship. And that Texas game, I'm glad we have that early on, because that's going to pay dividends when we got to go to Washington, I think a couple weeks later.
That's right.
But Denny, I'm not. I think I already looked. The Ohio State game has got Michigan getting 9.5.
Woo!
They got Michigan getting 3 or 3.5 at home against Oregon. You serious? So they don't even know what the hell we got. You know, I don't know. I just think I like Michigan at home against Oregon getting points. They're already saying that, well, they got the lefty, the Dylan Gabriel, played every school in the country, been all over the place. And they think that, we got quarterback questions. That's why they're thinking that. But I don't know, Denny. We if we're healthy going into Columbus and we've got good quarterback play, why is anything different than what we've seen the last 3 years? I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't see a bunch of where there's some drop in talent at any position group. I don't see it.
Yeah, well, if you're somebody outside of Michigan and you've got to make predictions, the things that you do look at a schedule, and you do look at returning players, and specifically you look at the quarterback position. So a left-handed Bo Nix at Oregon and a guy who's played, what is this going to be, his 6th year? I understand why.
Dylan Gabriel.
What did I call him?
Bo Nix.
I called him a left-handed Bo Nix.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's because it was Nix was also a 6th-year guy, I believe.
Yeah.
So that's what they think. I understand, and I really like the coach there. Ohio State. Urban Meyer said it. Before Urban Meyer said it, I was thinking it myself. This is the greatest group of players, recruits, transfers on the field since 68, Ohio State. And so, this is like the greatest group ever. I understand why people are picking Ohio State. Texas has got a returning starting quarterback as well. Returning starting quarterback isn't everything, but it's a huge thing, especially when you're making predictions in the offseason.
Yeah, it's a huge thing. Early in the year, it's a big thing.
Yeah.
I think that's what's good about our team is we've got 3 games before we start Big Ten play. And that learning curve is going to be, I just know as a coach and as a player, that first game, you ain't worth a damn when you make your first start. But you watch Gentry improve, our big tackle Gentry and Al Hadi and Crippen. You watch the improvement from game 1 to game 2. And then you watch them after Texas, Fresno, Texas, and Arkansas State. Those guys will be ready for Big Ten play. They'll be, because there's a big difference now, Danny, going through 3 games. Guys that have the talent, they just don't have the experience.
How about one more question for you, Scar? Johnny said it's going to be running the ball. What if Sharon Moore comes out and treats every game like it's the second half against Penn State? Like he's got.
Listen, there ain't Sharon Moore and our Michigan coaches. They're not stubborn. Our coaches are not stubborn. Our coaches are smart. Offensively, the defense is going to dictate what you do. Okay, if you got a lamb chop over there, and you can't, and I'm hammering that you're number 76. I'm gonna keep running at 76. Okay, if you're too stupid like Manny Diaz to line up against some of my formations and shifting and motions and stuff, then I'm gonna keep doing it. Why the hell throw it? So our coaches aren't stubborn. Our coaches are simply guys with, at least Jim Harbaugh, the last, once we start getting going, is like, okay, what are you giving me, man? Where's the weakness of your defense? I'm going to find it. Okay, we're going to find it out. So I don't think our coaches give a damn about stats.
Woo! That's it. There you go, Scar.
They don't care about how many times we throw it, run it, how many catches this guy has, they don't care about none of that. They're looking at your defense and saying, okay, what do you got, man? Where's the flaw? I'm going to find it. Okay? So that's what we're doing on offense.
Scar lighting the fuse and starting the fireworks previous to the 4th of July. He's getting it going. They're all in the air. Get some hot dogs, some hamburgers, Scar. You got that flag.
There you go, baby. Hey, Danny, this guy, let's toast. Now he's been listening, man. Defense wins championships, baby. Danny, I've been talking about stats the last couple of weeks, how fast you run them or this shifting and who's. I told you the only stat Coach Moeller used to say to us that he gave a darn about. The only stat, defense versus the score wins championships. Which team gives up the fewest points? Go look at that stat last year. Michigan was on top. Okay, so who's giving up the fewest points? You can give me all this other third down conversion and this, that, or whatever. No, man, who's giving up the fewest points?
Scar, light the fuse, put his hand on the ground. I mean, he's got everybody. You got everybody all ready, Scar. Everybody Keegan's ready to go. He wants to put the pads on. All right.
Hey, I'm ready too, man. It's getting that time of year. We're tired of baseball, man. I'm tired of,
You're tired of betting the White Sox.
I'm looking at soccer. You got me over here looking at soccer, Denny. You got the American deal going on, the Europe Cup. I'm ready. Let's put some football on.
I hear you. When I'm breaking down the WNBA All-Star voting, yeah, that's when you know it's time to end up in football. You're right about that.
Yeah, I want to see Fresno State rolling in town.
I'm with you on that. All right, enjoy the holiday weekend. It's always great to have you on here. We'll be here on Friday. Scar, great job, and a reminder, everyone, smash that like button.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of wink video next week. We'll break it down, and the confidence will be building. Favorite 4th of July food, Aaron? Oh man, give me some Italian sausage on the grill, Aaron. How about you, Danny?
Well, we have I don't know. I don't want to call it $100 watermelon, but my wife buys. They're not just the green watermelon. It's like a black diamond watermelon. The last time she bought, I didn't know that it was like $100 watermelon, but I said, wow, you really picked a great watermelon. And she said, oh, it's a black diamond. So we have some kind of $100 watermelon, and I'm going to pick my daughter up right after this show, and we are stopping at the grocery store. So I don't know. I mean, I'm going to go over to the meat section, and I'm going to take a look, and I'm going to see what jumps out at me. I think it could be a T-bone steak.
All right, Danny, we're fired up. We're counting it down, man.
All right. Take care, Scar. Smash that like button. We love those 5-star reviews. Take care.
Go Blue.